All right, so we have Chad Laflamme here. He is the executive director of the Kismet Rock Foundation and Plymouth State University graduate. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to meet with me, Chad.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, awesome. So I just want to start by asking, how did you find the outdoors? Like, what sparked your interest in working outside and being involved in the outdoor industry?
Well, I grew up playing in the outdoors, but I wouldn't say in the way that most outdoor recreators do. So I grew up in Gorham, New Hampshire. And as a child, I played more in the woods, kind of outside. We didn't really go hiking. We didn't go backpacking, things like that. I didn't really get connected to the outdoor industry professionally and recreationally, I suppose, until I started going to college at Plymouth State University.
So how did you find Plymouth State? Was it just like there was a local school, or like what was the draw to Plymouth State for you?
Well, I applied to Plymouth State while I was in the military. I was in the Air Force for 4 years, and I decided I wanted to get out and go to school. Chose Plymouth State because it was near the mountains and it was in New Hampshire. Those were really my prerequisites. And initially I was studying criminal justice when I first went to Plymouth State, and I eventually left criminal justice for the adventure education program, mainly because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and then kind of figured it out while I was there.
Awesome. So you mentioned you were in the Air Force. Thank you for your service. So when you were leaving high school, was there a lot of contemplation, or did you have your mind settled in the military?
Well, sure. I grew up in a really poor family, so we didn't have much opportunity, and I didn't really have any kind of marketable skills, nor did we have money for school or anything like that. So joining the military was really out of necessity. I knew I wanted to get out of my town, and I wanted more opportunity for myself as an adult, and I knew the only way I was going to do that was to really enlist and hopefully go to college.
Cool. So moving forward to Plymouth State, you started out as a criminal justice major, and then you transferred into the adventure education program. How was your experience doing the adventure ed program at Plymouth State? Any critiques or like positive, negatives?
I'd say for the most part it was good. I met a lot of people that had an impact on my development at that time. I was a little bit older, as I've mentioned earlier, since I went to the military. I was about 22 when I started. And I met a lot of people I hadn't met before, kind of different ideologies, different backgrounds, which was pretty interesting. Where I grew up and in the military is generally a very conservative community, and I was around much more liberal people, so that kind of helped develop into where I'm at these days. I took a bit of a chance, entering outdoor education, and I felt like I was well prepared through that program. They were very realistic about what I could expect in the professional world, emphasizing that in this program and in this field, you're not going to make a lot of money, so you be prepared for that lifestyle. So they did a good job preparing me for that and giving me the tools I needed to be successful as an outdoor educator.
So was it a tough transition for you coming as a 22-year-old freshman, the untraditional route that people do? Was that a comfortable transition for you, or?
It was a little difficult at first, since, I had put a lot of intention and took a lot of responsibility in my education. It was hard for me to empathize with some of the younger students or first-year students that maybe cared a bit less about the program or cared less about their success or involvement with school. A lot of students in that situation weren't really there because they wanted to be, because it was a social expectation that they were to go to college after school. So I came from a different background, and I really wanted to be there. So a lot of my education was important to me. I had a lot of trouble empathizing with those who maybe it wasn't as important for.
Okay, so it was a little bit of just maturity curve, especially since your military background.
Yeah.
Awesome. Graduating from Plymouth State, you mentioned that they prepared you for the expectation of the lifestyle that you were going to live. How did that develop?
Yeah, I graduated, I think it was spring 2010 officially. I didn't actually go to my graduation, though. I was actually working. So instead of sticking around for school for 1 day a week, I actually moved away and worked full-time, and then would commute to school for that 1 day a week. And because of that, I didn't end up coming to my graduation. But
where were you working?
I was up at the Appalachian Mountain Club at that time, the AMC.
Yeah. Okay, so were you guiding like youth programs out of there? Or?
At that point, I was just working in the storehouse, so it was really just delivering goods, moving boxes, resupplying the huts. But I was working for their wilderness education program in the summer, since it's a seasonal program.
The AMC, is that all along the East Coast, along the Appalachian Trail, or is it just New Hampshire?
It's most of the East Coast. I think they have chapters all the way down to maybe Maryland or something like that, Delaware.
Okay.
Maybe even further south, but a majority of the Northeast.
Yeah. Moving more towards Kismet, can you speak about like how long you've been in Kismet, how you got involved with them or heard about them? And
Sure. So as executive director, I've been with Kismet for about a year and a half now. Before I came back, it was about 3 or 4 years before that, I was actually the in-house manager. So I worked for a couple summers for Kismet Rock Foundation in the house with the students. And I came upon Kismet because a friend of mine that I used to work with at the Appalachian Mountain Club was the executive director during that time. And we ran into each other hiking up Mount Washington, and she told me about the program, and she thinks that I would have been perfect for it. So she recommended I apply, and I was immediately excited about the opportunity because of the population that Kismet works with. In the years that I've been working as an outdoor educator, I've found there's a big gap in the populations that we serve. Many affluent students are able to afford these services and have them accessible. And there are a lot of therapeutic programs that provide wilderness or adventure-based programming for those that are at risk or adjudicated or in need of some kind of therapy, some kind of intervention. But I found that there was that in-between that there wasn't much access for programming for. There were those that couldn't afford programming on their own, nor did they exhibit behaviors that needed intervention to access these adventure programs.
Like insurance-sponsored programs, you're saying? Like the wilderness therapy programs that insurance might cover?
Yeah, insurance might cover, or maybe their parents have access to these kinds of access to enough money for these kinds of programs too. Okay. So there are these students that are high functioning, really good students, but their potential in their development isn't being met because they don't have access to similar programming. So we look for those kinds of students.
Wow, that is really amazing stuff.
So that's what makes Kismet special. Where do you find these populations? Like, do they come to you, or do you do like school outreach programs through like guidance counselors? How do you reach those populations?
So we go to our students to find them. We have 8 different sending schools from New Hampshire, Maine, and Massachusetts. We describe our profile to the guidance counselors in those schools. And they gather a group of 13-year-olds that meet these profiles, so highly limited economic capital and social capital, and to the point of really inhibiting their growth or having the potential to break contract with society. So potentially becoming those students that need some kind of therapeutic intervention or, are at risk of becoming adjudicated, things like that. We come to the school, we give a presentation to these groups of students. Those that are interested sign permissions for the program. And we come back about 2 weeks later usually, and we interview every single applicant to get an idea of their available resources and their available opportunity for development in their lives. Mm-hmm. What we're looking for is, do they have access to a similar Kismet program? It might not be a climbing program. Maybe it's a summer school or it's a summer camp, or maybe they have an uncle that provides, that kind of important relationship as a young person with an adult to nurture that development. When we find those students who are really on the edge and need some kind of opportunity in their lives, and we invite them to the program for a week each summer for 4 summers. So we're a long-term program.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And the graduates from the program also have the opportunity to apply for internships within our program, so they can come work with the house staff. Those that have completed internships sometimes come back as fully paid house staff. And we have 3 or 4 graduates on our board of directors, so nice. They're actually my bosses,
Nice, that's cool. So you're creating opportunities beyond just like a 1 week or 1 month summer experience. That's awesome. That's really cool. Actually, I didn't know that. That's really cool. How long does your program run? Is it seasonal, or do you run like ice climbing trips? How does that?
No, that's all right. So we just started some new spring programming where we head to the students' home location. We gather up all the students in that area and do some gym climbing and get to know some of their other Kismet students in the area.
Yes. What's your education background? Did I see you've done some graduate work as well?
Yep, I'm trying to finish up my Master's of Education right now.
Right on.
It's in curriculum and instruction with a focus on adult learning and development.
Okay. Is that through Plymouth State?
Yep.
Awesome. Panther for Lit. Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of last 2 questions. So Chad, as a person who's taken an untraditional route to get to where you are, and it seems like you've had a lot of success in the outdoor industry, what advice would you give your younger self that you now know when you're going through that time of like anxiety, trying to figure out exactly what you want to do and where you fit in the world?
Well, for younger self, I would say two things, I suppose. One specifically is on feedback. Be open to constructive feedback from your supervisors and more experienced staff. The other, I would say, is be flexible to opportunity that presents itself. It's a really small field, especially professional outdoor education. Once you get into more of a management role and things like that, there's lots of seasonal programming, but finding year-round programming takes a lot of flexibility. So be aware and be open to the doors that present themselves kind of on that path.
Okay, and last but not least, what advice would you give to aspiring outdoor professionals based on your experiences?
I'd say the biggest one is make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. It's a really romantic idea, outdoor and adventure education, backpacking, canoeing, rock climbing, long-term, as your job with groups of people who've never done it before, or, groups of people that have the opportunity to develop from your experiences. But make sure you're doing it for those students. If you're doing it for yourself, or if you're just doing it for that personal adventure, then you're going to burn out quickly and you're not going to last very long. So assess that within yourself before you get started, before you're really committed to this program.
So doing a little self-reflection and really finding out where your passions lie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Chad. Well, thank you for taking time on your Friday afternoon. I don't think you guys are climbing today because it's raining, but again, thank you for the time, and it's been a pleasure again to talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Your project.